Take it away, fellas.
Thank you, voice girl, and welcome once again to another edition of the Manspace Podcast. Now, this is the voice of Russ, and with me as always, wait a minute, he's not here this week. Les is out this week, but I had to pull somebody else in to fill his shoes. And joining me once again here in the Manspace, the one and only Mr. Dave Williams.
What's up, Dave? Hey, what's up? Live for the day, Dave. What's happening, man?
Hey, listen, man. For those that did not catch your previous appearances on the show, let the people know who you are.
All right, so I'm one of those guys that's born and raised in Ohio, moved to Michigan, but I promote men's health. I'm a men's health advocate. I'm one of those guys that try to take care of themselves and promote it to others. So that's my main thing. That's my main goal, to make sure that I help other guys get their act together, because I know we can be stubborn sometimes. So I just want to make sure that we keep our act together and keep getting our act together for the family, for yourself. That's what it's about.
So, since you've been on a couple times, Les and I have been going back and forth, and we've been trying to, make some health changes and things like that. What's your normal routine like?
I didn't know you was going to ask me that, but I kind of felt you were going to ask me that. Typically, I just make sure, man, that I do three things. I keep track of my weight. Every morning I weigh myself. Every day I keep track of the food I eat. And then I make sure I get my steps in, right? That's my exercise. So I do about anywhere from 7,500 to 10,000 steps. It just depends on the day, but typically it's about 10,000. But like on Sunday is my day of rest. But every day I see exactly precisely what my weight is, because it triggers me and says, hey, if I've gone up too high, I'm like, oh, I got to cut down whatever I ate. Then the next one is, hey, what did I eat, right? Because hey, we all have our vices, our fetishes, if you will.
Right.
Mine is sweets. Mine is sweets. I'll admit that to you. So we have donuts and all that kind of stuff, and I just said, hey, if I can control that, that's all I can control, right? And I just keep doing that every day. So that helped me with my tremendous weight loss. I had what was called pre-diabetes. I had been diagnosed with that, and and if anybody knows anything about diabetes, you know that nobody wants diabetes, and pre-diabetes for type 2, and then type 1 is what you're born with. So it really just got me going and saying, hey, man, how can I do better? And just share the information. So I just keep sharing the information and making sure that I take care of myself, healthy, staying healthy.
I'm not revealing anything to the Manspace Nation, because we talked about this on the show several times, but Les is one that became diabetic.
Okay.
I got in the pre-diabetic phase, and I was like, okay, let's scale back. Let's make some changes, even though, the sweet tooth still catches my eye from time to time. And I do some stuff for the Manspace Nation. I do try some stuff every now and then.
Nice.
But we've both been trying to make a lot of changes. Les has been doing tremendous, getting his weight down. I'm working on mine as well. And just trying to make it a whole lifestyle change. Right.
Right.
I've never been one that's been high on the term diet, right?
Right.
Even though I used to look at it as, oh, the first part of diet is die, but really you're trying to kill off the old habits, not kill yourself. You're just trying to kill off these old habits that got you into a bad place. So so once I started changing my mindset around that, I'm like, okay, that made me feel better about doing something, because I'm trying to kill off the habits and not, focusing on the word die,
Right. I think what happened with me was we live in an information age, right? So I was just getting all this information on, should you take this, should you not take this? So I just went old school. I said, well, let me look at what I'm eating. And to your point about diet, I stopped looking at it, because you can't work out your diet, meaning you can't outwork your diet. You can exercise all you want, but if you eat wrong, it ain't gonna work for you. You could be one of those guys that work out all the time and still, drop dead, because that's just how it is.
Right.
So that's why I said, well, let me just take a look at what I'm eating. I needed to make sure I had some fiber in my diet. I need to make sure, like, I'm a big, I got a lot of old school ways in me. I had to forgive me, but I earned these gray hairs. And I had stuff like, crackers and cheese. Like I was always eating, like stuff like this. What is going on here? I'm like, well, it can't be much because crackers and cheese, but it's so many polyunsaturated fats and that kind of stuff, and doesn't help your blood pressure, right? So I said, oh, let me eat fruits, vegetables. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like when I make a plate, man, it's real simple. I just say, you know, a fourth of it is a protein, half of it is vegetables, the other fourth is a starch, maybe, you know, so like a sweet
Okay.
potato, something like that. So just trying to keep it as simple as possible, not trying to complicate it. And it's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay to go to bed hungry sometime. And you know, I was ready to have that full, you know, clean the plate. It was disrespectful if you didn't clean your plate, but
Yeah.
it wasn't a good, healthy lifestyle. So I just went ahead and said, hey, if I didn't eat past a certain time, like now where I'm at in the East Coast, it's like 7:40-ish or something like that.
Mhm.
I'm already eating. So hey,
Yeah.
it don't happen the rest of the night, it don't happen. Now, my sweet tooth, what I do, my cheat code is gum. I'll chew some gum,
Mm.
right? Because that's still the sweet, but it's nothing digested, right? So
Right.
I'll either usually get some kind of spearmint gum or some Trident White or something like that. Just, you know, because I gotta have that sweet craving, or what, if you will, and it's just getting over those cravings, man, and just making sure I control them instead of them controlling me. That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I got back into using like the little flavored water enhancers,
Okay.
you know, just to
Yep.
put that into my water, and that gives me my little sweet cravings.
I got you.
But
Got you.
I think one of the things that really got me was because you know, me and my wife, we travel and we drive a lot of places when we
Okay.
travel together.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I do
Majority of the
99.99% of the driving.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, you know, we're doing some trips that are 13 hours,
Yeah.
you know, on the road,
Right.
you know, and so I get sleepy, I get tired. And so and when I get bored, I snack. So
Yep.
I'm usually snacking and driving the whole time I'm, you know, on the road, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
She'll wake up from a nap. She's like, "Oh, I'm ready to eat." You know, then it's like, "Okay, well, we're going to eat something." Well, I'm trying to continue this drive, so we're not going to stop and sit down. It's like grab
Yeah.
something fast and keep going. So it's like,
Right.
you know, it was a lot of bad habits that got created by doing all the driving and traveling and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I love wrap snacks, you know,
Okay.
except for the Nicki Minaj ones. I don't really care for those.
Bruh.
But the rest of them,
Nice.
the,
Yeah.
the rest of them are quite good to me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's like what I notice is like, you know, stuff that's really salty. If you eat a lot of salty foods, your body's going to retain water
Yep.
because of all that. So yeah, you're going to show higher on the scale the next day if you're tracking yourself. So you
Right.
just got to watch. You really got to watch what you do and
Right.
really try to train yourself right. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this though.
Yep.
What do you think about like the weight loss injections? You know, the Wegovy's, the not metformins, but Ozempic,
GLP-1s?
and
Yeah.
yeah.
So ironically, I used to work for a healthcare company, and that was one of
Okay.
the downfalls of the healthcare company was the GLP-1s, because they were offering it to people, and it was a very expensive drug. GLP-1s were actually offered for diabetics, right? So,
Right.
like you said, Russ was diabetic, so they would say GLP-1, and what happened was people would lose weight from taking the GLP-1. So, what Americans typically do is like they only hear one part of the story: lose weight.
Right. Lose
They
weight.
take
Right.
the lose weight part, but there's all kind of complications to those GLP-1s. There's all kind of like if you ever hear a pharmacy commercial, you know, they
Right.
say
Right. Right.
all the side effects, right? So one of the side effects is you can have something go wrong in your intestines, right? Or the moment you get off of them, you're gonna get the weight right back.
Gaining weight back. Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So I'm not a big proponent of it, but I do understand it because people do, you know, like obviously if you're what they even called me this, man, it was hurtful. They said you're obese. I said obese,
Hmm.
right? It's a big thing to hear, but my whole thing was if it took me this long to get this weight, it's going to take me even longer to get it off, right? So I had to pace
Yeah.
myself, right? You have to give yourself some grace, and you have to say, hey, this is where I am, this is where I'm going. So I'm not a big proponent of the GLP-1s. Obviously, if you got diabetes, then yes, but
Right.
if you don't, I would stay away from them simply because there are side effects, and people don't want the side effects. They want, you know, oh, I look good, and you know, I feel better than I've ever felt in my life.
Right.
But you'll be
Right.
on it for the rest of your life, right?
Right.
So they're reclassifying this as, because we live in the land, I call it the land of milk and honey. We live here, and we're always going to always have something to sell to people, right? So they're reclassifying certain GLP-1s to, oh, they're weight loss drugs. But now the
Right.
healthcare companies are like, look, we're not promoting that. It costs too much, right? Because it costs too much per person to get them on it. And I'm one of those big
Hmm.
proponents of, I take the vitamin G, And people like, vitamin G, what's that? I go to the gym. See, I go to the gym all the time.
I was
I'm there
surely about to
all
ask you, so I'm glad you
yeah,
clarified.
I had to clarify. I recognize. So I see the same people, but it's because I was working from home a lot, and it was a therapy for me as well, because I got to see some of the same people all the time. Now I do like to shoot hoop and all that stuff, but I'm nobody's super hooper. I'm 54 years young, you know, and I'm like, hey, I'm there just to have fun, get my cardio up, that kind of stuff. But I'm at the gym not only for cardio, but you know, for mentality, right? And get my mental therapy together. So I'm big on that, and you know, I make sure. Like I used to eat like a big. I'll tell my wife. I said, stop making these slave breakfasts. I can't eat all this.
Right.
This is
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
ridiculous. And I just start eating like I said, my cheat code is fruit. I love me some fruit. So I just go to the store. I buy, look, the best thing I ever told somebody is you've got to cook what you eat. Right now, with you going on the road, right? The big thing is your snacks got to be good snacks, right? You need some kind of fruit but you know, you can't stop, but you're gonna have to stop anyway to get gas or whatever.
Right.
But you know, you want to make sure you have those kind of things in your repertoire so you can have those. I'm big on like protein bars or something like that. I read everything. I make sure I say, hey, this is too many calories. We got a Costco. I know everybody has them all around, but they had these 100-calorie protein, not protein, but they're 100-calorie bars. I would pop them things like candy, right? Because it's only 100 calories. But now understand this. Typically, things that are good for you don't taste good for nothing.
Right.
It's
right.
just
Absolutely right.
It's just that's what's going to happen. That's why I say the fruit, because fruit, you know, is going to be naturally sweet and all kind of stuff. Grapes, plums, whatever, all those kind of good things. Fiber you get is definitely an apple. But I'm big on making sure that my snacks are even on point, because I'm with you. I would go to you can go to my pantry right now. I'm like, hey, that's my son has it. I don't eat it. I just say, hey, that's what you want. That's what you want. But I don't eat it. So I even have you talked about you know, having something salt. I get unsalted nuts. I have a whole big thing of unsalted nuts, right? It's mixed nuts. It has all kind of mixtures in it. I get what's it, unsalted nut. I do have my cheat code is these acai cherries or covered. Now that's my joint, right? But I'll have that maybe once a day. You see what I mean? And that'll be it. I try to stay away from the, you know, the good stuff. Like, and the thing, like my dietitian told me, she said, you're always going to want it, but you just don't have to have it in excess. And nobody teaches that in anything, right? We always engorge on everything. You know, you don't just see one movie, you see 3 movies. You know, we binge watch, right? Well, we binge eat, we binge eat, right? And it just keeps manifestation. And then your body's just gonna say, hey, I'm going to shut down on you. I don't care what you say. Right. And that's
mean, we're a society that glorifies gluttony because you got the man versus food and then the hot dog eating competitions and all these different competitions. And they make it a big event around this stuff. I mean, you can go all these different places and they have hidden challenges, you know, and it's like,
right.
Do I want my
can I eat
picture
that
up on the
80-ounce steak?
wall?
Yes, I can.
Right,
you know?
right. You know,
I'm just big on, man, making sure. A little bit about me. My parents divorced when I was like 9-10 years old or whatever, and you know, my father was around, but he wasn't, you know, in the home. And I recognized something that I do with even now that I did back then. He would say something, and man, I would do the exact opposite, Russ, because it was just he would say some outlandish things. So I was able to recognize that when it came to me eating. I said, wait a minute, I want to eat this. Let me do the exact opposite of what I want to eat. Right. I'm a steak and potato guy. Right. I can't have steak and potatoes every day. That just can't happen. When I do have it, I'll make sure it's a sweet potato, right? Instead of a white potato. Make sure if, you know, I got my vegetable. I told you about the 1/3, 1/2, 1/4, 1/4. That's what I make sure I do. And I'm like, man, aren't you still hungry? My brother told me, he said, man, how do you keep from like going to Chipotle and you're not full? I said, it's okay. You don't have to be full. You know, like, you know, when we eat at Thanksgiving, I would eat, you know, heavy. Right? I was like, 2 plates. I'm having 2 plates. Now I'm like, hey, 1 and I'm out. That's all you having is 1 plate. I'm like, look, my stomach has gotten smaller. So I don't have to worry about that stuff now. But when I was going through it, I just said, man, I am hungry. Well, guess what was happening? My stomach was getting smaller. And when my stomach gets smaller, I was getting my appetite was getting curved. You see what I mean? It's still a struggle, right? It's still a struggle because you know, I'm the first one when I'm on vacation. Oh no, you can forget all that. You can forget all that. But obviously I don't go on vacation every month. So I'm able to build up that kind of tolerance. That's where it's at.
Yeah. You know, I've actually known a couple people who actually went through the weight loss surgery, the gastric
Okay.
bypasses.
Yep.
And, in the beginning, they did great with it. But over time, your stomach will actually stretch back out.
Yep.
And so, once that happens, they started gaining a lot of that weight back, even after the surgery. And
Right.
I've known a couple people that actually had to go through the surgery twice.
Yep.
They did it. A friend of mine passed out. His stitches bust, and
Yeah.
he passed
Yeah.
out. And so
Yeah.
he ended up having to have emergency surgery, to get him fixed again. But
Right.
a lot of this stuff is just so dangerous, man. And
Yes.
it's
Yes.
I understand the need for vanity, and everybody wants to look a certain way, and you hearing the term obese, man. I mean, that to some people that may not phase them, but to other people it's like, you
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
that just hit me, right?
Right. 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 And that's
So
what did it for me.
everybody, yeah, everybody has that trigger that's gonna help them, man. But I tell you, I did try to change my ways a little bit, and I tried the plant-based
Oh yeah.
protein
Yeah.
shakes. Disgusting.
Totally disgusting. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Disgusting. I wasted my money with that crap.
See, I don't feel it was a waste.
Was awful.
Russ, I don't feel it was a
Uh,
waste. You just know now that's not where you're going to go.
I
Yeah.
messed up, and I bought a big thing of it because I'm like, yes, I'm gonna get into this plant-based protein. Absolutely disgusting. I tried
Yeah.
because what happened to me was one of my coworkers, her son passed away
Mm.
because he was really big into working out, and he overdid it on whey protein.
Oh, okay.
And
Yep.
too much whey protein can clog your arteries.
Yes.
So
Yes.
he had a stroke and died.
Oh, wow.
So I tried to get away from whey protein and go to, plant-based.
Plant-based.
Nope.
Yeah.
Gross.
Ain't
I
nothing there
tried
to
the
plant.
rice
Ain't nothing there to
protein.
plant. I know what you're saying.
Eat rice protein. Gross. Can't do it. So it's like you said, in moderation.
Yeah.
So I try to get like a lot of my protein from my foods,
Yeah.
and then I will do like 1, maybe 2 protein shakes in a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I've
I'm
done
not
that as well.
doing it anymore. Yeah.
I've done that as well. Like even my milk, I changed. Right, I'm a big. I really like. Well, I used to really like milk, and I'm not lactose intolerant, but lactose don't agree with me all the time. So I go ahead and I just get.
I'm with you on that
You
one.
know what I mean? So I just go ahead. I get what's it called? The almond milk, right?
Yes,
Try to get it without the vanilla, but sometimes I get it with vanilla because without it, it just tastes like water, like colored water. I'm like, what?
Right.
What is it?
I gotta have the vanilla. I'll do
Gotta
the
have the vanilla.
unsweetened, but I gotta have the
Yes,
vanilla in it.
yes. So I get that. I mean, basically, I go to Costco, and the other thing about eating healthy, yes, it's going to be expensive, but anything
Yes.
worth having typically is, right? If you look at an expensive
Mhm.
car, the maintenance on that is going to be up there, right? Compared to
Yeah.
a car that's not like like my big car was a Honda Accord, the
Mhm.
plain model, right? The DX back in the day.
Yes.
It was nothing in it, right? You was cranking the windows down, but you get that EX. Shoot, that EX had power windows and everything. It costs more, and I just look at me as I'm a high maintenance, right? So I'm gonna do what it takes to maintain me. And to your point about,
That's
man,
good.
like I
That's a
said,
good
I keep
word.
going back to my fruits. I put the fruits into the smoothie, right? When I make it,
Yeah.
right? I put a banana in there. I get the frozen ones. I let it thaw out, and then I put the almond milk in there with the vanilla. I
Mhm.
put the like I love my bananas. I love my strawberries, right? I got them in there now. Like sometimes, I wait till they're good and ripe, and then I put them in there, right? When the banana's good and brown, because it's giving me even more sweetness in it. That kind of stuff. I had to look for it because it wasn't gonna find me, right? I had to look for it. I just keep looking. I don't stop. Failure is not an option. I just keep failing.
You're right.
Until I find something.
You're right. Failure is not an option.
Yeah.
But let's take a break. We're going to reset, and we'll be right back with more of the Man Space Podcast.
Yes, sir.
So we are back with my special guest co-host, Mr. Dave Williams, live from the Dave Cave,
Yes,
filling
indeed.
in for Big Les. So today I want to talk about something that I it's almost like this word is becoming almost as for lack of a better term, um defiled as DEI, right?
Mm.
And it's the nepotism word, right? The nepo babies that we hear a lot, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's in sports, we hear about it in the workplace, we hear about it at the White House with the nepotism and everything. And so this term has got such a negative connotation that surrounds it. Why do you feel that nepotism takes such a bad rap?
I was thinking about that, man, and I think what's happened is we have, they talk about mansplaining, right? We have done those kind of things, and typically the man space has done what man wants to do for ages. So we have taken nepotism and mansplained it. We have put all the man sprinklings on it and said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this because I want to, just because I want to." And
Yeah.
having no compassion for others has always made America ungreat, right? So I'm one of
Yeah.
those guys that try to unify people, and you have these ungrateful things, right? If you got children, if they're I don't have grandparents yet, but I've seen grandparents in action, and
Right.
grandparents will automatically go to those grandkids and let them do whatever precisely they want to do. And I can tell you, as a parent, I used to get mad and would say, "Hey, he didn't do that to me," but they would do it for the grandparents. That's what nepotism is. It's just whatever you want, you can have because you're my
Right.
child, right? And although that might be true in your own world, right? At your house, you can't do that in a corporate. At least I wouldn't. But I was talking to somebody about this, and they said, "Well, it's been going on for ages. It's just blatant in our
Mhm.
face now, right? It's no
Yeah.
different than any other ism, racism, ageism. It's right in your face because of what we have now. Like even the platform we're on now, we have socialism. Now we're able
Social
to
media.
talk
Yeah.
about it, right? We got social
Yeah.
media, and now we're able to talk about it. And we say, man, that was just so blatant. And my
Mhm.
thinking is that it's never going to go away. But it does need to be. It does need to be looked at over and over again because every situation is different. Nepotism isn't going away, but it's how you handle it. Like in certain arenas, did somebody get, like, if I had a company and my son needed a job, yes, my son is going to work for my company, but I'm gonna make
Right.
sure my son is qualified for that particular position. And you got to explain to people like, hey, everybody knows this is my son. I want him treated any special than anybody else. Yeah, he's got clean toilets. He's going to start at the bottom, but
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
day he is going to run the company, but he needs to know everything about everything. So
Mhm.
that's what I would do. But that's because I take my morals and my convictions with me wherever I go. And I think that's what's happened is we don't do that anymore. It's just like, well, because he said it, he should just be able to do it.
Right.
What are we talking about? So it has
Right.
to be one of those things where we have to, you not no mansplain it, explain it to people like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I envision what's going on. Because really, if you think about it, like my guy, I don't know if I'm preceding myself, but my guy is LeBron, being from Ohio, like I told you, uh,
Yes. 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 Yes.
being from Ohio. And I was telling somebody, I said, I don't know, with the 55th draft pick or whatever his son is. I said,
So yeah. Yeah.
I've never heard of anybody that low getting so much publicity, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's because of his
Especially their
dad.
first year.
Yeah, because his dad is number one, right?
Right.
He was number one when he got drafted, and anything he does, he doesn't see any problem, right? He sees, that's my son. I'm going to take care of him for the rest of his life. And in his
Mhm.
arena, he feels like, well, he told me he wants to play. This is how he's going to do it. I'm gonna get him in it. Yeah, there was a play. I mean, it was evident. I'm gonna get him in NBA. He's gonna work his behind off. I'm not saying he doesn't work his behind off, but we're looking back and saying, bruh, he didn't deserve to be in the NBA. What are we talking about? Right? A lot of people, anyway. And I kind of felt, I was like, he didn't have, this is his college years. That's all it is. These are his college years. He's in the G League. He's doing his thing.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, if he just would have explained it a little better to us, like if I, just like you told me, hey, Dave, we're going to be doing this. You told the audience, hey, we're going to bring in Dave for Russ. You got to do the same thing with the nepotism. You got to say, look, I want him to be here. And he told us, and we didn't listen. He said, I want to play with my son. he told him, whoever gets me gets my, gets my son gets me. Hey, these were the signs. He said it. So he's thinking, hey, this is what it's going to take. And I think I deserve this because I've been in the league. How long? You heard how much about me? The most I heard about LeBron was he liked somebody's post. That was
right.
That's all we got. We don't have nothing else. So when he does this, we're like, we finally got something to put, pin on him. And all I'm saying is, yes, it's nepotism. It's nepotism at its finest. But we know he's going to work his butt off to get there. So that's why I'm saying, like, we got to recognize, like, when you own a company, when you do things and you're at that high of a level, you can say and do whatever you want. But you got to explain to your people so they can understand what your vision is. Nobody explains the vision. You got to explain the vision to people. That's what I think.
I think where it comes to when you look at it from the corporate world,
yes,
and when the so-called heir apparent is just brought in all of a sudden off the streets, right?
Yeah.
Because you gotta wait for them to finish school. You gotta wait for them to, at least go to college. In some cases, they don't even go to college, but say go to college. So now you got somebody that's 22, 23, maybe even 24 years old walking in there the first day. And now you've got people that's been with this company for 10, 15, 20 years trying to earn that spot.
Yeah.
And you just have somebody coming off the streets.
Yeah.
That's going to take that spot.
Yeah.
I think that's where it becomes a problem. I'm a big wrestling fan, right? I love the WWE, right? I've been watching it since I was a kid, right?
Yep.
But you got Vince McMahon, right? No longer owns the WWE, but when he was the owner, of course, Shane, his son Shane, his firstborn, everybody knew that Shane was eventually going to run the company. It didn't happen, but eventually Shane was going to run the company. Everybody knew this, but Shane was brought in as part of the ring crew. He would be in there sweeping and setting up rings in the beginning. They made him a referee. Same thing that Vince's dad did to him. Vince's dad had him as a commentator. Before and made him buy the company from his dad. So that type of thing. So sometimes you make people earn it, and when you earn it, you have a different level of respect for that person. Because I would hear interviews with other wrestlers and stuff like that, and when they would talk about Shane McMahon and him coming up, they loved him.
Okay.
He would actually be in the cars riding from city to city with them, not on the private jet with his dad. He'd be in the cars with the boys, hanging out with them, be in the bars and everything else, doing all the stuff with them because he was earning their respect. So there's a different way when you got somebody, when you take it back to Bronny, a lot of people feel like he didn't deserve to be there because there were a lot better players that could have gotten drafted in that spot,
right?
That probably should have gotten drafted in that spot,
right?
But didn't because of, if anybody else would have taken that chance, if Team 56 would have taken that chance. Look, I don't even know who drafted right behind the Lakers, but LeBron, because there's the business man of LeBron. That goes, he's handling his business, but there's the business side of basketball. He sells tickets.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened. That's exactly, and let's not forget. I saw this on a podcast, Gilbert Arenas. I like it with a variety, right? I like it. I like to listen to them because they have a perspective because they played, and they said about how, I don't know how truthful it is, but if it's true, they said. I guess each jersey goes for about $100. I think he sold over 5,000 jerseys or whatever. So in other words, he made them 50 million, just like that.
Yeah.
Now we know the source was his dad, but having the father-son thing was big for marketing. And everybody, because like I said, I still play basketball. Everybody wants to compare the NBA to the rec league, right? And it's not comparable.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
Not comparable. So I tell them, I said, look, what they get away with in the NBA, you ain't gonna be able to get away with here. They're better athletes. They're better this, they're better that. And it's for entertainment purposes. Now, you said you wrestle. Now, I'm not gonna say whether it's real or fake, but I will say it is entertainment, right? That's
It
why
is
they changed it to
entertainment, yes.
WWE, right? But the E for entertainment, I think. But
Yes.
the point is, in entertainment, you will do what it takes for entertainment. No
Mhm.
other sport had ever done this father and son playing at another sport was baseball, but nobody had done it in the NBA. They never had done it in the NBA because it was
Right.
too many years, distance. They had father and son come, Gary Payton first, first and second, of course. You had, a whole bunch of guys that did that. Larry Nance Jr.,
Right.
stuff like that.
Right.
But nobody had ever played at the same time because it was too many years apart, people were thinking. But
Yeah.
that shows how long that Joker has been in the league. And he
Right.
said, look, this is what I'm going to do. And he said, look, and he's going to sell jerseys. Oh, by the way, when he's down in the G League, he's balling. Now, I've been telling people this, and they've been getting mad at me. I said, look, I'm a realist. We know that's why he's in the league, because of his dad, period, point blank. We know that he didn't like Stephen A. talking about him, and all that kind of stuff. We know that. My whole big thing is let him work. If this is the only thing we got this, and we got the decision. Two things. That's all we got to tarnish his career. I think that's okay, right? Because you're not going to find another guy like this that stays in the league that long and now is leading the league in scoring and all that kind. And then he says, hey, I'm doing it. Now, I heard this now. I don't know if you heard this, Russ. They asked him about his second son. Hey, you going to stay in long enough for him? He's like, whoo. He's like, I don't know if I can do that one. And I'm just like, okay, at least he has some kind of, but you see, sometimes people like him, the elites, if you will, they have a different vision than you and I have. He wanted his son to play, and he was like, no, this is going to happen. And yes, it's nepotism at its finest. We can talk about it all day, but in the entertainment, they have now made the NBA relevant. I know this. I know your wife's a big Eagles fan, right? But LeBron isn't an Eagles fan, but what I'm getting at is I know that everybody and their mom was watching football because of that, right? They was like, hey, who's going to do this? Who's going to, the Chiefs going to three-peat, right? That was a big thing. So basketball wasn't getting no shine, right? Because the NFL was on and popping. And then let's not even forget college, right? College was on and popping. And the Ohio State University won, but that's a whole nother thing. But the I know SEC, man. Hey, y'all just got the NCAA on the men's. You good? All right. So, but what I'm getting at is entertainment will always be something that's a microcosm of our society.
Yes,
it's always has been, right? It always. You talked about the guy. I had it too. We had guys that when my son is going here now, the one guy was like, hey, my son's gonna go to college, he's gonna do this. Now I know some that was like, the son never good. Well, he's not really into college. Well, the rest of us was in the college. We had to go. What are you talking about, right? And what I recognize is, Russ, you just have to be like this. There's certain things you just can't change, and ain't gonna change, right? You're not, hey, this don't wash off. This don't wash off. I have to be. I was taught to be better. I had to get there on time, not on time. I had to get there early. I had to put in extra. I love it, man, because I know if I do that, I'm not doing it for the job I'm in. I'm doing it for the job. I'm doing it for the Dave Cave. I'm doing it for me. Right. So I know I can go into the next company, holler at me when y'all want to interview me. The next company I'm going to, that I can say, no, I've done this before. It's no big deal to me. So I like it because I'm like, you got nepotism? Oh, it's just another thing I got to fight. Oh, you got this? That's just another thing I got to fight, because it's going to be there. You're not going to get rid of it. Right. The 45 and 47, he put all his people in, right? He put all his people in. They had no experience.
None.
All I want is when the Dave Cave is on and popping like that, don't be mad when you got the little Dave Cave, right? When it's all in a city near you. And I got my son, hey, this is Dave Cave. Oh, I got my other son, this is Dave Cave. I don't want people to be mad, but they are going to be. But that envy, that strife, that's what keeps, in my opinion, that's what keeps America going. It's never going to be right because you got people involved in it. It's never going to be right. So you just gotta deal with it, and let's just keep it moving, because it's going to be there.
I think a lot of people get nepotism and legacy mixed up as well.
That's true.
Because a lot of times, like you establishing the Dave Cave and me with the Man Space, this is a legacy that we're building, that we would hope to establish to a higher level, to where you're the next generation, because we're not going to be here forever, but you're hoping that your next generation can pick up what you're doing and continue on with it and keep and expand it and make it even better. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the hope that you have, that you're doing something to help your next generation,
Right.
depending on what your business structure is, right?
Right.
If it's a little different in a corporate environment,
Right.
and I think that uh, having a business, is one thing, but having a corporation
Right.
is different. When you got 50, 100, 200, 2,000 employees up under you,
Right.
and now you bring in somebody from the outside in, it's like, whoa, they ain't got any experience.
Right.
You
Right.
know, they
Yeah.
they took economics in college. What do they know about running this fuel company over here? That,
Well,
that ain't got nothing to
hey, Luther
do.
told us best. A heart does what it wants to do, right?
Right,
And it's going to
right.
always be like that. That's what I'm saying. Russ, ain't no need to fight me, man. Come on over here to the come over here to the
But
Big Ten, baby. Come on over. Come
have
on over
you
to the
have
Big
you
Ten.
experienced it though?
Oh
Have you
man,
ever experienced it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, even as an internship, it was 1992-ish. I'm working
Hmm.
for it's called Ball Corporation. They
Hmm.
do the canning and all that kinds of, people used to can stuff. They did that, but they started getting into the beveraging industry. Well, like I said, I was interning, and it was in Muncie, Indiana, and it was a young man there. He wasn't just an intern; he was a super intern, and we all had to do a presentation. Now, I knocked it out the box or whatever, but this guy made everybody look like he was just second grade. I mean, we were second graders. And I was like, how does this guy get so good? What's the Oh, that's the it wasn't the CEO, but it was the like the chief financial guys. That was his son,
Right.
and he ironically went to University of Dayton, which I'm from. It was a private school. This thing, big time, big money, all this kind of stuff. He was smart, but I'm just saying, I saw it with my own eyes. They had earmarked him to work at that company and take over his dad's position, right?
Hmm.
It had your 2,000 some odd employees, if you will, maybe about
Right.
500 to 1,000 or something like that. He was earmarked for that. Now, he was destined for it, but he put the work in because they didn't want anything to be like that. And my whole thing was, I used to see it all the time. And even when I worked for GM, I worked for EDS, I used to see that kind of stuff all the time. My manager, the one that put a noose at my desk, his dad
Oh
got him that
wow.
job. Oh yeah, his dad got him that
Whoa.
job.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, we can backpedal. Listen,
Yeah.
I've dealt with life when it happened. When I was at corporate America, me and my wife were just dating at the time. And I came in, I worked at a help desk, right? IT. I've always been in IT kind of field. I got to my desk the next day. I was, like I said, I was at a help desk. You had to write down the calls and, log them in and
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. I got to my desk. There was a noose at my desk. He said, "Yeah, Dave, you really hung yourself on that call." Now, I
Not
didn't have
okay. So it wasn't like it was a naivety to not understand the meaning of it. So they
Russ. He
explained.
was a grown man. There's no
Yeah,
way
yeah,
that Noose
but
had been at the desk and talking about,
what
okay, that's before they had
what
defined what you could say and could not say, right? So this is
yeah,
pre, it wasn't bring your camera to work day. So cell phones, they were invented, but they didn't have picture. Remember, you used to call them camera
yeah,
phones. It didn't
yeah.
have, I didn't have none of that, but I did have, we had word of mouth. My coworkers were waiting for me to go off, right? They was just waiting for me to
Mhm.
go off. And I very professionally went to him. I said, look, this day and age, right? There's no way that you could think putting a noose at my desk was comic relief. I said, for a black man, you put a noose at his desk? And he's like, well, David, I didn't mean anything by it. You just really hung
Right.
yourself. I said, you know how to tie a noose, but you didn't know how to talk to me about the help call? Come on, really? Right? So I made
Mhm.
him feel less than, but he got the job. What I'm getting at, Russ, he got the job because his dad was higher up in GM, and they made him part of. He had no experience in the stuff, obviously, right? Because he's doing nooses at desk and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I was just like, yeah. So again, if I can deal with that, I can deal with the nepotism that happens in whatever area, because this is the kind of things that have happened in my life, but then we had to deal with them. That's why I'm saying I welcome it. I welcome a good challenge because I know I'm gonna be, the other side of that is I'm gonna be better. I know how to handle
Yeah.
stuff now, right? I know how to handle if it's racial, right? If it was just, well, we don't want you black people here, so we got a noose. I'm
Right.
like, you think that's gonna scare me? A noose?
Hmm.
I twisted to him. Oh man, I can't believe. Hey, could you show me how to tie one so I can use it too? What? You'll be like, yes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because again, I'm standing on my forefathers. I'm standing on their shoulders. You know, people had to do worse than that. They couldn't even read. Right. So if I got to
Right.
deal with this, I will deal with it gladly because I'm employed and my family is going to prosper and be in good health. See, so people, you know, we get away from the good health part. They just want to prosper, but we want to be in good health. So with good health, there's going to be some conflict because there will always
Mhm.
be people that will get in conflict with you. Always, always. I'm
Right.
just ready for it.
Yeah. I used to work for a company that got acquired a few times, right? So
Okay.
the company that I worked for initially no longer exists in
Okay.
its current form.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was a manager within that company, and I had a position open in my department, so I'm interviewing different people, and I get a call from HR. They send me this guy's resume, and I'm like, "What are you sending me this resume for? He has no experience." I get told that he's an affiliate of the owner of the company. And so I'm like, okay.
He's more than an
And
affiliate.
right. It's advised that you go ahead and do this interview. So I'm like, okay. So I do the interview. And so I'm asking him questions, and he's like, I was just told to show up. You know, I don't even know what the job is about. You know,
Mm-mm.
he has no couldn't tell me anything about TCP/IP, just anything, any of the basic stuff, right? Not even to the point of, you know, I can train somebody to do the job, but he didn't know the basics, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay. And so I get a call from the director of HR right afterwards and said, how'd the interview go? I said, I'm not hiring him. And they said, you really want to do that? And I'm like, yeah. You know, I'm 25 years old at that point. I'm like, no, I will not hire him. I'm gonna stand on my ground. And they said this could be career suicide by not doing this. And I said, that's fine, but I will not hire him. You can find somewhere else for him to go,
Right.
but he's not gonna go to me.
Right.
And
Yep.
and so I didn't hire him and went ahead and hired somebody else and continued on. Life went on.
Right.
But it was one of those things like when HR comes to you and tells you
Yeah.
that you should
Yeah.
hire him. Like fast forward a few years later, I've moved on to a different company, and now the director that I work for is forced to hire somebody, right? Who is a friend of the owner of the company.
Ooh.
And so the guy is sitting directly outside my office. And so I walked over to him and I introduced myself, and he's just kind of just sitting there. He says, man, I don't know what to do with this. I'm like, this what? And he's pointing at his computer. He says, I've never turned a computer on before. I don't know how to do this.
Mm.
And so not only, but 3 days later, he was told, my director was told that he had to give the guy time off so he could go to Vegas with the owner because they were going to go play
Oh.
poker.
Oh, poker. Nice. Nice.
Yeah. So they were going to Vegas to go play poker. So the dude had been there 3 days, and he had to give him a week off
Paid.
to go to
Paid at that.
Vegas.
Paid at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
paid time off.
Paid.
So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, what do you do in those situations? Like, yeah, I stood firm and said no, right? I was like, I cannot, in good, clear conscience, hire this person when I know there's more qualified people out there that could actually help my team. This me bringing this person in, I felt like would ruin the morale of my team.
Right.
You know, put extra work on them because now not only do we have to train this person and bring them up to speed, but now we got to deal with somebody who doesn't know anything, and it's going to be the learning curve was going to be higher, so it's going to put more pressure, more work on the rest of the team. So I'm like, no, I can't do that, you know, because this guy didn't have the basics. So I
Right.
stood my ground and and didn't do it. But
Right.
in the other situation, you know, where my director actually did it for this other company, and he's like, you know,
Hands are
I
tied.
don't know what to do,
Hands are tied.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think what happened, man, or what happens is they just gave you fuel for the man space. You just needed
Yeah.
something. You just needed something to share with people so you could connect with them. That's really what it was. They didn't know that they eventually you'd be talking about them and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm trying to tell people with now the social constraints are off. We now can share our life experiences. Like nobody believed that I had a way back in 94, 95, something like that, that kind of stuff happened. And they're like, this is why, I was born in the 70s. This is why people my age bracket, this is why we so tough. We've dealt with life at a different level,
Life, yeah.
right? And they don't, like my son is in his, I have two of them in 24 and 21. They don't have a life like that. They don't know anything about that. They have dealt with, let's say, people from different nationalities, different ethnic groups, but they don't know about the noose at the desk. He's never had to deal with that, right? I had to swallow my pride. And it wasn't like now I could be like, man, I'm suing you. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. They looked at me as a DEI hire way back then, right? Because I was at a black college. They needed black people because they had government contracts, right? All this kind of stuff. I went there. I was probably one of 3 out of thousands. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, this is my life. This is what I'm doing. But also, what people don't tell you is when I lived in the ghetto, I was around a bunch of brothers and sisters, right? They looked like me, and it was hell on earth, right? Because everybody was trying to style and profile and would kill you on sight just to rob you. Ironically, I collect J's now, but of your J's. Well, it was easy for me not to have J's because I didn't have them. I didn't have the money, right? So what are you gonna rob from me, right? You ain't gonna rob from Payless. You ain't trying to get some pro wings, right? You're not trying to do that.
Some winner's choice.
Yeah, come on. What are we talking about? So I've always liked things, but I always looked at it, I put it in perspective. Like I feel really good about helping people, and that's why I'm saying that's where my passion comes from, because I started at the bottom. And what I'm seeing is now these kids are so used to, even my sons, they go through it. Oh, well, I want to have this. I want to have that. I said, son, you just got out of college. You don't have, you're not going to get the house that I got coming right out of college. That's just not going to happen. Right. Save your money, stay here with me, and we can move on. But I look at it differently, man. I just look at it from the point of, I want us to go through that and share it, because we all need to understand how to combat it. That's what I'm at. We all need to understand how to deal with conflict, because it's going to be there. I'm never saying what you experienced was right. It was wrong, but we need to know how to handle it, because now you can tell your people, like, hey, I stood on, as they say now, standing on business. I stood on business, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. So they appreciate now. But see, if you never shared that with them, they don't understand how hard it is to get people in here, because because it's a good job. I got to get people in here as experience. So, we go back to, who do you know? Well, people go in their family. I was taught, if we're going to put somebody in my family, I had to be better than. I couldn't be this, just some schmuck that was coming up in here. Just you got a job, talking about just show up to interview. No, I had to be crispy. I had to be tight. Everything had to be together. Like even now, like I'm trying to learn Power BI, right? I got to take class on that thing. I ain't no, hey, well, just put me in because, you need people. No, you got to know. You got to know. So I just look at life totally different, man. I look at it from the point of, whatever it takes, I'm going to make sure it happens. That's what I look at.
Yeah. I tell you, and the last little nugget that you put in there, I always tell, my stepson and my daughter, I always tell them, they look at me and my wife and it's like, man, we want to be like y'all. Like, nah, we don't want y'all to be like us. We want y'all to be better than us.
Better than. Yes. Same here. Same here.
We worked hard to get to where we are. Yes. And we just wanted to show you the foundation of how hard we had to work to get to here. That means, so for you to get to this level, there's going to be more obstacles out there that we haven't experienced now, because there's a whole different world out there that we didn't go through. It's a whole different level that you're growing up into that we don't know about. We didn't understand some of the things that you're going through now. So you're going to have to work even harder to be better.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Let's put a bow tie on this one and come up with the last word here.
And now, the last word.
So Dave, I'll let you go ahead and bow tie this as the guest co-host today. And what is your true feelings as far when it comes to nepotism? Like, is it a good thing, bad thing? Where do you stand on it as a whole?
I think it's a bad thing, but I think it's something that's not going to go away. I think it's something that we have to recognize, that we need to make it a recognition and still see it and do it anyway. It's just like weight loss to me. You're going to have to see it and do it anyway. You got to go to the gym anyway. You're going to have to recognize that this nepotism is here. It's not going away. And you got to make sure you got to make yourself the best you that you can be to deal with this nepotism. That's what I think is going to happen.
Absolutely. I like it.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back with a little bit more of the Man Space Podcast. As we do each week, we like to close the show with just a little bit of inspiration. Goals are something that we all aspire to accomplish. We all have things out there, tasks out there, missions out there in our lives that we want to accomplish. But today it is something more than just goals. It's something bigger than the hustle. It's bigger than that to-do list that you've been avoiding all week. Today it's about your legacy. Legacy is not about being famous. It's not about statues or having a street named after you. Even though, let's be honest, the awesome Avenue of Rust just has an amazing ring to it. Legacy is simply what you leave behind in people, in actions, and in impact. It's the ripple effect you create in the lives that you touch, the lessons that you pass on, the love, the laughs, the values, and yes, even those dad jokes. And little Russ knows that I got plenty of those. See, those are the things that you leave echoing for the next generation. Your legacy might be raising kind, lovable, upstanding kids. It might be building a community, creating something beautiful, mentoring someone who needs it, or showing up when it mattered the most. And here's the kicker. You are actually building your legacy right now in every text that you send, in every choice that you make, and every time you choose courage over comfort. You're laying down the bricks. You're laying down the foundation of your legacy. So ask yourself, what kind of trail do you want to leave behind? Because whether you're leading a team, raising a family, or just trying not to burn the dinner tonight, it's the mark that you make is what matters. Live loud, live big, and leave something behind that makes people smile and say, yeah, you really made things better. Until next week, keep showing up and keep building your legacy. That's what a lot of it is about, man. It's about your legacy and how you want your legacy to be passed down. I mean, yeah, nepotism has its good and bad sides, but if you lay it out, you lay the foundation, you teach them the right way of how to do things, it can be a very good thing at some point. You know?
Absolutely. I feel that the nepotism is one of those things that the ills of life that we're going to have to learn how to get over. And we have to learn how to persevere anyway. So we always talk about the young people. Oh, they ain't gone through nothing. He ain't gone through nothing. Well, they going to go through that. Okay. That's going to always, that's going to always be there. So just keep persevering. That's what it's about, man.
That's right. Dave, tell the people how they can follow you, find you, and even catch the Dave Cave.
Oh, yes, sir. So I'm on all the platforms. I always say it every intro. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. MrDDWilliams.com. That's where you can find me. David D. Williams the first. Take care, Starburst. Later.
Listen, ManSpace Nation, as we've been telling you, every Monday you can catch the new episodes 2 days early before it gets released to the rest of the public on WTMSTV.com. Every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch us 2 days early. And then you can catch us on everywhere else on our normal time slots on Wednesday. So, and I got to add this little nugget in there. Go over to the manspacepodcast.com. You know, I do have a blog out there, Russ's Corner, but we got the Ask the Manspace segment coming back. So drop us a line. Let us know what questions you want to ask the Manspace, and then we may read your questions on air. So drop us a line at Ask the Manspace on the manspacepodcast.com. And on that note, we're going to put a bow on this one and say, we out of here.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Manspace.
Whichever platform you listen to us on, make sure you subscribe and don't miss a show.
Remember to keep up with all the Manspace updates on our website, themanspacepodcast.com.
And you can follow us on Instagram at ManspaceNat1.
Until next time, Manspace Nation, he's Les, I am Russ, and we are out of here. Less.